Yes, it's that time of year again. It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcast. So there's a show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. You've been hearing it for years now. It's the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in 3 categories: education, storyteller drama, and art. So this show is based on the world-famous Writers of the Future contest, created in 1983 by L. Ron Hubbard, and provides advice and tips from contest judges, international best-selling authors, world-class artists, contest winners, and industry professionals for writers and illustrators wanting to take their next step. So go to podcastawards.com and nominate the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in all 3 categories. That was education, storyteller drama, and art. And that's podcastawards.com. So take a moment and get your votes in.
For dinner in a few minutes, but I've been going.
All right, everybody, it is that time of year again. It's time for you to get out and nominate for your favorite podcast. The show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards is The Centralist in the category of politics and news. The Centralist is a much different news and political program which is not deemed as opinion news. Listen as Joe Montaldo brings you just the facts from trusted sources, which will allow you to make up your own minds on the various stories being reported on. So go to podcastawards.com to nominate The Centralist in the category of politics and news. And that's podcastawards.com. Take a moment, go and vote, and as Joe would say, come on guys, vote, vote, get out there, vote. What you waiting for?
For y'all had a week, and then 2 weeks in 1 week, and then y'all lost it a week. See, right now, Spaced Out Radio's got number 1 with Astro Travel, and Outer Rome's got Joshua Lewis, and then you've got, I can't see it, just says Writers of the Future, damn it. I can't see which one it is, but I'd have to go look on the other side.
Can you hear me, Joe?
Yeah, you got. Oh, I'm sorry, Mike. Go, man. I apologize, dude. I didn't realize I was.
This is like the hillbilly hour, man. This is like.
I apologize. Woo-hoo.
People are like, "What's going on, man?" Like, you see what I got to put up with. So the podcast awards, you can vote for stuff like that right there, man. You know what? If you like that kind of shenanigan, you can vote for it. But here on this Discovery Paranormal, you can't vote for this, but you can listen to the show, and I appreciate when you do. And as we find ourselves on the exit ramp of life, what do we examine of life, and what does life mean to you? And do you have any sensitive qualities that come out of intuition, you might say, premonition? Are you psychic? And I think that, me personally, I think that everybody has a level of that. Of course, I think that animals have a level of that. I think there's ways of communicating that don't necessarily have to be verbal, So, but in the long run, what makes you psychic? What's the ability? And I've met all kinds of people who said they're psychic and they're not psychic, and they take credit for other people's work, and they're out there. I know all kinds of people who are amazing mediums, and they don't want the ability because it haunts them every night, and they have to actually go and learn how to shut it off. And that's not such an easy thing to do. It's not like there's a school, Hogwarts, or something where you're going to go and understand something more about a bigger world. That bigger world is suppressed in the narrow-mindedness of really the man-made religious roots of this country and world, So it's a problem when you want to spread your wings and expand, and you have this force, telling you why you're going to go to hell. Or, because you're thinking outside the box, you go outside their realm. You know what I mean? So, but lots of people had, oh yeah, my grandmother used to get these premonitions, and she would say these things were going to come true, and they would come true. And I kind of have the ability, and my cousin and whatever, it runs in family lines, and we've run into a lot of that. And we knew a great medium that was local, and she recently passed away, but she had three of her grandchildren had her sort of her abilities as being a medium. One could see spirits, one could hear spirits, one could feel spirits. Interesting how it kind of split up like that. But I like to study things like that, and I like to see, yeah, these people being for real. Are these people, are they full of it? Because there's people out there that just want the attention, and the investigator inside of me looks at these people and says, hey, you know what? If it's real, I want to see the evidence. I want to see the proof. You're gonna go ghost hunting, walking around buildings and calling out this stuff. Yeah, that's great. I don't care what you feel. I feel this in this room and whatever. And as I do these investigations, I kind of say that, but I need the evidence. I need to hear that that EVP. I need to hear the voice, and I don't want to hear I want to hear a sentence. I want to hear a clear, understandable sentence. Something everyone can hear. And not just blah 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 blah. Or these people using these ITC devices where basically it scans radio stations. And it's the biggest. It's the biggest BS thing about the paranormal, any paranormal research, anyone using these ITC, biggest BS thing. I bought them, I checked them out, and immediately I determined that these things are just scanning radio stations, and of course they're going to hit on certain words. Of course they're going to come out and spit out certain things. I don't want that. I don't want things that are already generated, and it's not a white noise device of something blasting white noise and having something come through. But I'll tell you, with my little Olympus recorder, little tiny Olympus works beautifully. I've gotten whole conversations, EVPs that are understandable. So I need the evidence. You know what I mean? So having said that, it comes down to psychics. Worked with a lot of psychics. I had psychics come in to investigations. I never told them what was going on there. I never told them any history. I never told them anything. In fact, they just kind of get the location a short time before they show up, and that's the way you have to run things with people who feel. It's nice to have those feelings. It's nice to maybe have a better understanding of a direction of emotion or something. Usually you can feel that emotion because that's really what it is pure emotion, is going on there. And I just kind of feel in the long run, you know, just let's say you have just a bunch of people walking through a place, and you got one, I feel this and this is, and here's the story and this is the story and whatever. It means nothing. It means nothing. It means just someone's putting something together that is most likely disingenuous, and it hurts actually the research part, the real science. Paranormal is supposed to be, occurrences that happen that can't be recorded with scientific equipment, and we've all proved that wrong. We use scientific equipment to get these readings and to have these conversations, getting yes and no answers, whatever, and then whatever, people do what they do. I know if it's Netflix or if it's Amazon or Hollywood, they need to spin and they need to put stuff out there that's quite frankly ridiculous. It's really the carny circus version of life and the paranormal. There are people who cross over. There are people that hang around. They have some kind of mission, some kind of thing, a statement they want to make. And maybe they don't know how to cross over, and then that's why you run into people who are these awesome mediums and whatever. I know a lot of mediums that don't like attention. They don't want to be on the radio. They don't want to be out there in front of people because they are very they're personal people. Personable. They kind of want to stay within that group and stay within the zone, but they don't want to spread it around. And what they think what they're doing is really important, and it is, because it's helping people, no matter what in life, right? I mean, if you're trying to help someone on the other side who's stranded, or somebody who has a message or whatever, you it's something that if you understand, you can help that person if you can help that person. So anyway, aside from all that stuff, I want to see a picture of a ghost, and I want to see I want to hear it. I want to feel it, you know, not in a negative way either. You know what I mean? I think that there's a lot, one of those ghost adventure guys. It's like I don't watch television anymore. I've gotten it completely out of my life, thank God. And and I'll tell you, when you do, it's like getting sugar out of your life. You see these changes, all these changes of this programming that goes on. But those guys, they need to make the show. They need to make it interesting for their audience. I don't know who the hell watches it. They're not serious people in that world of exploration. But all these shows, even Ancient Aliens, they'll have people on there as experts, and I question the word expert when it comes to UFOs. You know what I mean? Because you could know lots of stuff. I mean, best expert I know is Joe Montaldo, who owns the station. I mean, because he's been there and done that. He's old. He's old. When you get to a certain age and you've done a certain amount of stuff, you tend to have a little bit more, especially if you're active, constantly going, searching, asking questions. Plus, when you do shows, and especially shows that have people on, the guests, man, you learn a lot from those people. Jim Morris was one of those guys. I was just got to do a show with he and Joe Montaldo just before Jim Morris died, and man, he was a great guy. What a great show! We should air that show, replay it, because it's so knowledgeable, and he's been around. So, what makes people sensitive? So, if you're a UFO person, you feel that sensitivity, you think that that's not psychic. Of course it is. You're whatever you believe, telekinesis, moving things with your mind, right? Moving things around. Well, you think that's not achievable. You think that in our world that people can't get to that level, because I think that people do have at least you know telepathic thought with one another, and some people are more in sync than other people, and it's a developing thing, as the human brains develop over time. As long as things don't get in the way of that expansion, right? Cell phones, look what a chunk it's taken out of humanity, even brain department, but it hasn't helped anybody really. I mean, negligible if you think that a cell phone can help you. Yeah, sure, you're stranded on the road, or there's an emergency or something, whatever, I'm talking about what those social media sites have done to children, to people, and it's a damn shame. But anyway, aside from all of that, we're talking about your psychic ability. You think you're psychic. You're sensitive. You have prophetic dreams of the future that come true, things like that, or you get a feeling, you know, that something's going to happen, and you maybe go a different direction or whatever. All these things are sensitive. Then there's full blown psychic John Edwards type of guy. I mean, my mom and sister went to see him when he was going to St. John's University, and he was, doing the psychic thing on the side, doing readings to make a few bucks, and he seemed pretty genuine to them. I mean, you know, they have been to other psychics too. So, but this dude said that he really can't shut it off, and as someone who has spirits approaching him, apparently these mediums shine like a guiding light or something, and there's others who have come to them. We've done investigations where spirits from close by but not that location were coming in to this medium, and like badgering her, like saying, help me, and it became a whole nother like investigation within the investigation. There's some teenager that came through. So do I believe in all that? Yeah, because I put a ball down on the floor and I've seen it roll, because nothing was there. There's no wind, no rat, no mouse. Shit, can you roll the ball? Can you roll the ball? Ooh, there it goes. Something's there, and they are strong enough to manipulate that. So, do I feel that it's there? I'll tell you about me, and I don't talk about this a lot, but you know, ever since I was young, I knew that I had a lot of abilities, right? And it wasn't something you talked about. It wasn't something you got into. It was just something that me personally, something I just took to be normal, and you have a feeling, strong feeling for things, for people, for situations, events, no matter what. Like you can kind of feel it out, like you've already seen the movie, and you kind of know that this is the bad part or the good part or something like that, right? So, and then of course, you get loads of deja vu, and deja vu to the point where I knew what was going to happen next. So it wasn't just feeling that moment; it was kind of feeling that moment and pushing a little bit forward in time. So over the years, you think about, why is it like that? And there's a lot of people who feel the same type of stuff. There's a lot of people who don't talk about the same type of things. Especially years ago, if some kid said, "Hey, mom, I'm psychic," whatever, they take him to a shrink. They would not explore, you know. So is the kid looking for attention? Are they crazy or are they really psychic? There's a few different ways to go on that one. So what if your kid is psychic? What if you're a psychic? What if you're psychic and your kid is psychic? And I want to talk about tapping into your own abilities. And to me, I like saying intuition. I like saying having the understanding of using that radar, kind of reaching out, and like in Taoism, in the Tao, you 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 have to understand what's coming, and once you do, you can kind of get around it or deal with it, and not have it stop you, not have it, not have it be a catastrophe for you. You know what I mean? So, and that's the kind of thing here, In fact, in Taoism, it talks about psychic ability all the time. Talks about seeing the future. Talks about all kinds of stuff and using the Tao. So, as we live in this realm of time, right, and we are limited to that realm, in a lot of different ways, we have to have an understanding of each other and also the universe and what we're tapped into, right? So it comes down to your own abilities. It comes down to that feeling. It comes down to that knowing. Look at the twins who are connected, and one twin can feel the other when they're sad and whatever. All that. I dated a twin. It was weird, man. It was weird because I was with her for a little while, and then I saw her sister, and it was like, like weird. She looked out the window, and it was a bizarre experience. I think and like when I was in grade school, there was two guys, the two twins, and one was good and one was evil, but they never told you who was who. Yep, that's how I grew up. That funny little town on Long Island. All right, so let's forget about psychic Cleo. Let's forget about the occult practitioners, the people, and whatever. I think that if somebody can tap into your timeline, you know, and we all have one, and it doesn't get created, I don't believe, as we go. I think that it kind of slides out, like karaoke. You gotta know the words to sing the damn song. Can't be all late. So yeah, it's like karaoke. Uh, so so let's say you want to visit a psychic, right? And you do, and they tell you a bunch of stuff. There's mentalists who kind of just grab at common letters. There's a J name in your life, and and then the person will think, and then oh yeah, yeah, and whatever. And then there's only a few ways to die too, unless you die some really extravagant way, like crushed by an elephant or something, But most people die of cancer or heart disease, and as these mentalists kind of lean into it, that's what they fish. They fish around. James Van Prague, he's one of those guys. I don't take him as a psychic. I take him as a mentalist. And there was that other one too, and she passed away. She was what was her name? She was horrible, and just you know they do these predictions on TV. They get the spotlight. Nothing ever comes from what they say, and I think that in their personal lives. They're despicable people. You know, I don't know. I guess they're just snake oil salesmen, right? I mean, I shouldn't have a problem with that, other than that's humanity. But anyway, so when you hear the word psychic, you know, you do think of those neon storefronts. You do think of the crystal ball. You think of the theatrics. Some of them even used dry ice, you know, for mystical smoke and all that, just to get money out of your pocket, basically, you know. And then it's giving people a bad name, giving psychics a bad name. Meanwhile, psychics have been around as long as people have been around. It's an ability, and it's also an ability that is suppressed. So, and you talk about the pineal gland. You know, the pineal gland is what a lot believe that has that telepathic thought. You know, if you're going to have telekinesis, it's that way. You know, animals have pineal glands, humans have pineal glands. You know, so it's no surprise that we can communicate on different levels, right? You know, your cat's thinking when they're looking at you, man, saying, "Give me treats, give me treats." I'm going to sit on your face when you're sleeping tonight. Put my butthole right on your nose. They do that, man. I woke up, my cat's ass was right in my face. You know what I mean? He was awesome, though. Like spitting out that long fur. Yep. We all been there. All right, so aside from the charlatans, aside from the snake oil salesmen, aside from the people who outright lie about their abilities, con artists, the people who say I need $7,777 by 7 o'clock on the 7th, or you're gonna die. And there are people who believe that. There's people who do that, you know. So, which, if you're an investigator, it makes your life all that much harder, because it adds a total a level of suspicion, you know, to anything that you're talking about. And you know, the mainstream media, they hate talking about UFOs or ghosts or whatever. They say ghost, they act like they said the word vagina in fourth grade. You know, they act so stupid. There was that guy on Fox that did that. That's what I have in my vision. You know, the guy that's on there, I don't know what his name is. He has like the little boy haircut. He's like, kind of got like a blockhead with a little boy haircut. That dude, you know who the hell his name is. He's on after the five. That dude. And they were talking about UFOs, and he's UFO, you know. And let me tell you, man, you're just a monkey who reads the news. You're not anything but that. You nothing but the guy who reads the news. Yeah, they get paid big bucks. Yeah, they have all the stuff, but there's still people who read off of teleprompters. They don't know the story. So you start talking about UFOs, and in the military dealing with UFOs and UFOs floating above these ships and whatever. We don't know what the hell they are, but there they are. And then you can at least give it the respect it deserves, you know? So, acting like an idiot. So yeah, that's my problem with that's every time I think of someone acting like an idiot, that's exactly the guy that flashes in my brain, and the dumb face he made when I saw it. Ugh, I'm stuck with that for the rest of my life now, you know? So all right, real psychics, true psychics, are individuals who are able to see, hear, feel, sense, taste, have intuition, sometimes a certain scent. You know, if someone's trying to get a message to you, they might flaunt the scent in front of your nose, something that you would identify as that person, right? We did an investigation one time, the whole room filled full of fresh roses, whole room. I said to the dude, "Look at that air freshener that kind of goes off, or anything on automatic setting, or anything at all," because the room had a zero level of scent to it, nothing going on in that room. And as we were talking to the guy's grandmother, she came through, and we ended up getting pictures of her too in his bedroom. Perfect pictures of her. As a matter of fact, the room filled full of fresh roses. And it smelled like fresh roses. It didn't smell like some chemical Glade crapola you spray around Febreze. It smelled like fresh roses. So then he starts going off. The dude, like, she was known for her fresh roses. She'd have, they lived in California. She had a rose garden. She'd always have fresh roses. And if, she didn't have enough, she'd go down and buy them. And every day, she would have fresh roses in her house. It was a big deal, you know. And that's a way of communication. That's something that they're known for. That's something that they bring along. In that particular investigation, I think everything paranormal could have happened. We got the EVPs, did the flashlight thing, this thing's talking to her flashlight, got the roses, and she grabbed my hand, and it felt really nice. Like she actually held my hand. It wasn't like a bad experience, when I asked her if heaven was beautiful, and she like held my hand. So, and we deemed all that like the visitations. It was around the holidays, and this guy was real, a medium guy. He was a medium. He didn't want the ability. And then he got into all kinds of weird stuff. I think that he ended up moving into a whole, that was an apartment he was in, which was just a couple of years old, in Ithaca, New York. Then a guy ended up moving into this this old farmhouse, outside of town. You gotta be careful, man, especially central New York. There's some haunted ass places out there. Farmhouses. Hey, these places go back to the 1860s, 1870s, 1880s. Older. Stuff's gonna happen, and that it's gonna be tied to the land. So anyway, he rents this house. So half a house, because the landlord divided the house. Landlord tells him the house is haunted like you wouldn't believe. I hope you can deal with it. And the guy's like, "Oh, okay, I can deal with it." Meanwhile, the guy's like fragile, like glass, and it wasn't the kind of person really had personality to to have that ongoing in his home, in his residence. So it turned out the house belonged to some doctor back in the day. They were like the pioneers of the area. The guy had slaves and that type of thing. A lot of people died on the property. He had a morgue in the house on the property. So yeah, it was that place. So we went there and did an investigation. You know what? It was just a couple of things, couple of occurrences, but nothing really like out there. And I think his stories, he was allured to something that was inherently bad, and people can, low vibrations, we call them, so people can, they get into that. Then he met the psychic down in Washington, and she actually told him to give the 7,700. That's why I referenced it, and this creature was going to come after him or whatever. It got, for me, I was in La La Land. It got to be ridiculous for me because I'm still rooted in reality. I think whatever the frick reality is, I like to think that I have some kind of balance. But he called me frantically, and I was on the road. I was driving, and I had him on the car system, talking to him. Hasn't been sleeping, and all this other stuff, and you know he was like telling me about these furry creatures with teeth trying to get at him through the bed, and this woman that would walk down the hallway that would like stop and gaze into his bedroom and stare at him. The landlord did mention that woman, and at one time the house was a complete house, and he divided it in half, so there was a hallway that goes through a wall essentially. And she would walk through that hallway, walk through that wall. I don't have any pictures of her or anything like that either. So this is all what he said and what other people have said. Nobody could live next door to him for any length of time. They would either become like alcoholics or like leave in the middle of the night. So obviously they were experiencing. I never got to talk to any of them. So obviously they're experiencing some stuff. And the landlord knew this, and he tells people that. He's very, very blunt about it, But and then Pete, the guy I do investigations with, went out there with his brother. They were in they were in the barn. His brother had made some kind of comment, and he got someone threw a hanger, like a metal hanger, at him, hit him in the back of the head. So that's why we actually decided to go into the place, because there was some kind of activity, not just like all the talk and all that, right? But as I'm talking to the guy driving down the road, I was like, yeah, we'll help you, man. Of course, it's what we do. I mean, we don't charge. We don't do any of that stuff either, so we just kind of do it with our time and and just to want to learn. That's kind of it, and help people. It's really is what it is, you know. But as I'm talking to him, I heard this voice like saying, you know, you're gonna die, you're gonna die. Like I was like, what the hell is that? And he's like, that's what I'm saying. I hear that shit all the time. I was like, oh my God. And that was like in the phone line. That was like in the phone. It actually gave me the chills. I love that, you know? You know, when you're in a situation, you start getting those chills up your spine. That is so cool. That is a Scooby Doo moment, you know? So then the dude, this is a horrible story, man. The guy gets approached by, you know, he forever wants attention now. Like, you know, first he didn't want attention. Now he wants attention. So he's out there uh talking to these the taps guys, right? And then they disbanded, the show ended, you know, and they became something else. With Grant and whatever. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know who's who, Grant and whatever, and the bald guy and the guy with hair is kind of how the Roto-Rooter guys, you know, those dudes. I don't hate on them either because they are what they are. Actually, I say they opened the door for a lot of people because there was a transition of shows at that point. You know, the only paranormal shows really on the Family Channel, oddly enough, and you know, that was kind of a bunch of bunk, you know, basically. But it set the stage for the acceptance of what these guys did when they came in, and I think they actually hit on some real stuff. But ultimately, they had to produce evidence to keep the show going, to keep it interesting, and then, you know, that's when it goes. So they get together and have another show, right? Just with I think just a few of those dudes, and then they've been calling everybody in the Finger Lakes who ever had any paranormal stuff go on to see if they can do an investigation. Then they contact this dude, and he's like, "Oh my God, we got to do this. They want you to be on the show, like me, you know, Peter and I." And you know, I'm like, well, what do they want? They want us to be on the show. They want all of our evidence. They want all the stuff that we've done. They want our stories and everything. And I'm like, you know, so they want us to do all the work for them so they can just kind of breeze in and see what they find. And so well, I'm not really down with that. And I wasn't down with the whole thing. So then I was like, okay, maybe there's some money involved. It might motivate me, you know, because that's money, right? Money motivates you. Get to pay the bills and buy stuff, sure. And then I called my agent, and he was like, you know, I'm like, what's a good price to be on? Because it was didn't come through him; it was an outside source. He's like, you know, told me chunk of money that Peter and I should not do it for anything less. And I said that to the producer, and they're like, well, we're not gonna pay you anything. I'm like, so you want us to come on for free and use our time and do all this? And it wasn't just, you know, they don't just do stuff in a couple of hours. These guys go in for a week or two in these locations, and you know, they constantly go and constantly go. And we did another location that the Taps guys actually went into, Valentine, New York, you know, with old trading posts and all that. And and the curator, you know, as we were walking through with her, she was telling us about how they were in. She was laughing because she was like, they came in with a bunch of psychics, and on the show they say that they don't believe in psychics. They came in with about 50 people, 50, that went through groups and groups and groups through the place trying to find stuff, find evidence. And they kind of just assembled it after that, you know, with all editing and whatever. Like, you know, I shoot the show, how we do the show and how we walk through the place. And there's really not much editing, maybe a little bit. Sometimes you got to take this out, that out, whatever. But I wanted people to be like they're on the experience with us, you know. That was the most important thing. Plus, you know, if you wear the energy down in a place, that's not going to work either. So anyway, I know I'm kind of going on and not talking about the psychic thing. All right, let me get past all this. Psychic skills. All right, so anyway, we did get evidence from that place. That was kind of cool. Psychic skills are defined by an innate ability to process sensory data, both tangible and intangible stimuli, on an extremely deep emotional, physical, or spiritual level. So you have your sensory data. You see things, you hear things, you feel things. You know, you have your five senses, right? But inside, you have so many more. So how do you think all that information in there needs to come out and be shared with the world? All your stuff, you know how that happens. It happens through your third eye. It happens through that pineal gland. It happens through that. It's like a super highway, for being connected. But people are just starting to learn about these things as modern humans, because back in the day, this was the norm. Back in the day, this communication of your Aztecs, your Egyptian, whatever, man, you know, whatever piece of earth you find yourself on, these people had a connection with the sky. They had a connection with everything out there. Now you have megalomedia taking people's attention, focusing it on insignificant tripe, memes of cats. You know what I mean? Things like that. I'm guilty of that. I put a lot of memes. You know why I put a lot of memes out there on Facebook? Because I'm poisoning their banks of data and information. I'm poisoning. You mean cat and dog memes I stuff their system with? That's right. That's right. I don't like socialist media. I like the few friends I have on there that would talk. We get hung up all the time because they don't like conservative speech. You know, they don't like conservative speech. These media outlets, then they don't have to go by free speech. They don't have to pay attention to those rules because those rules only apply to government sources. So the government, you know what? They're not responsible for Facebook and all that. So anyway, screw all that. Let's talk about tapping into your psychic abilities, right? So most frequently we develop psychic abilities during childhood, you know, and you know, and like I said earlier in the show, these gifts are passed on sometimes. Sometimes they get fine tuned. Sometimes they're there and you don't know they're there. And sometimes they're there and you don't, you know, you suppress it because it depends. I mean, yeah, there are parents that will notice a child who is, let's say indigo, somebody who is better developed than other humans that have come along. There's evolvement going on with a lot of people, and I think this evolvement comes with these abilities. So and it's a better way of communicating, right? Probably not good if people could read your mind all the time. I know it would get me in a lot of trouble. So basically, you have to have a coffee with your intuition, right? It's like meeting up with an old childhood friend who you haven't seen in decades, if you're that old. You're excited to reflect on memories, and you can distinctly remember your unique, interpersonal dynamics, the stuff you did, you hung out and whatever. But a lot's changed since your play dates. A lot's changed since you guys have hung out. Lots changed. I was listening to "We're the Kids of America." I had a crush on that girl, man. That was 1981. I was young. I was a youngin, you know. But I remember a year after that, my friend Marty got his driver's license and bought a cool 1967 Suburban. Had a 350 4-bolt main. That might not need anything to you, but it was a 4-speed. And you know what it was? It was a cruising beast. And we'd all put our money together and we'd cruise to the beach. We'd cruise around and cruise way out in Suffolk County, try to get girls to 7-Eleven, and it never worked. But that's what we did. That's what we did. And those days are awesome. These are the things that you reflect on. You had the good times. They don't exist anymore. Now everything has changed. The dynamic has changed. But getting together with yourself, right? You want to tap your psychic abilities. You got to treat your intuition like that's your old friend. Of course, you're familiar with your intuition. It's been part of your spirit, part of everything that you are. You know, and you know what? And it doesn't necessarily have to work in the way that you want it to work, but how it works is something that you need to understand, right? So you cultivate that relationship, and you have to kind of feel out everything that goes on in your life, your dreams and whatever. It's about being open. Your first steps to becoming more sensitive is about being open to all things, you know. And I think that if you are, you can start reaching out, you know, into a bigger world, right? because that's what it is. It's a graduation from one almost stagnant existence. If you think about human existence without without reaching out, without having an open mind, without being able to evolve, what do? Just people who get up and eat, make little people, and go to sleep. And in the middle, of course, you got to work down, what all kinds of stuff you got to do to support the machine. But what does it come down to you? Your what do you get out of life? What's your reason for living? You know, James Bond 007. I just watched that last one. I always watch movies like years late. I don't know, man. To the point where the people I see in the movies are like old now, and now when I see them, they're like, "Oh, what happened to them?" But James Bond, that was his last hurrah. That was his outing of. I mean, I'm not gonna spoil the end for you, but he dies, and that's it. You gotta find another James Bond, you know. But it was interesting. One point, one another character said, "A man with a lot of free time and nothing to live for." I kind of get that, you know. So, what do you live for? What do you do? What do you live for? I mean, what's important to you? And it really is a deep question. And I think once you start connecting to that, you have an ability to reach inside of yourself, where people kind of look for religion and things like that to complete themselves. And there is no completion. You know, it's just like it's like owning something. We're caretakers, and you don't truly own it. You're gone. It gets sold and passed on, and whatever. And whatever your prized possession is going to be somebody else's at some point. You're the caretaker, and I think you're the caretaker of your space and the way you live your life and treat other people. So you want to strengthen your abilities. You have to use your third eye, and you have to look in that zone. So, but I think once you start understanding those relationships with inside of yourself, you know, and almost like, if you look back, okay, you were this way in a past life, and it may not be what you are now, but you'll have elements of what that is. And just recently on another show, I talked about skills, skills. And if you're a great musician, you can pick up any instrument basically and make it work for you and make beautiful music. Doesn't matter what it is. You could be a great pianist, but you could pick up that guitar or bass and work it and get it done because you've got the skills to do it. A great mechanic, a great driver, a great chef, a great pilot, a great scientist. You've got the skills and you strengthen those skills. So it's not like, okay, you have to just stay at one level and hold on to that. No, you want to move through all these different levels. You want to be able to absorb, and like in Taoism, we say life is riding the wave of light, so you have to absorb that energy. And if you're going to bring out your skills as if you're a psychic, you already know. you know it's like the book of the I Ching. People cast the I Ching. It's actually called the Book of Changes, right? People cast the I Ching, cast the Oracle, and you can use yarrow sticks or you can use coins and go by, the face or the tail of the coin and get a numerical determination of a hexagon and whatever, right? Or 2 trigrams, whatever. And then inside the book, there's a corresponding chapter dedicated to the numbers you pulled. And of course, at the end of the day, with the I Ching, the people who consult the I Ching are not the ones who are looking for answers. They're kind of just looking for a reaffirmation for the way they feel. So people second guess themselves all the time. And you'll have an intuition, you'll have a feeling, but they say, "Oh no, it's all right." That's something that you need to get away from, and something that you need to let your intuition guide you in that way, right? So I think that there's a lot of ways you can strengthen these abilities. And meditation is number one, numero uno. And it's about clearing out the negative, clearing out all the horrible stuff. It's like I mentioned when I stopped watching broadcast television and commercials, because I was in traveling in hotels and they all had cable, so you leave it on the background. I'd have to shut that stuff off because it was just irritating. It didn't make me feel good, and I felt that it was very political and preachy, just ads trying to get you to buy something, right? So you just kind of roll on with all of that and say, okay, this just it's not meant for me. It's something that's distracting that it doesn't make me feel good. I don't watch movies that don't make me feel good at the end. I don't want to have to see all this violence and shooting and whatever. Shooting is not power to me. Kindness is power. Love is power. And then there's a power of the universe that a lot of people will never understand at this point in time. They will never understand it. It's beyond their concept. There's maybe a handful of people that might have an idea, but it's not made to be understood. There's levels. You have to graduate. It's not made. So in this level, we're here to learn to love, and it's that simple. To go through life without loving, what kind of miserable existence is that? And then being kind to one another and helping others, helping the people in your path. I'm not saying you have to go out and be a saint. You know what I mean? Although when I'm checking out at the supermarket, when I give a buck, I feel pretty saint-like. Would you like to give $1 for this charity? Sure. Saint Michael. That's right. I like the sound of that. But it really comes down to uh, you. It comes down to you and your interpersonal relationships with others, but you and how you feel and what you function as and how you operate, how you survive every day. Are you just surviving, or are you living? Because surviving sucks. You know, it's a journey. Surviving and living, you do both of those. And you have the moments that kind of lighten up the heavier moments. But if you are having experiences, you see spirits, talk to them. These ghost hunters that go in these places and then they see something and they run out of there. I'm like, where are you going? Your whole reason to be there is to see that thing and talk to it. What's it gonna do? What's it gonna do to you? It hasn't been done already by society. You think that ghosts are really like I mean, sure, you've got your situations where they can be pretty influential emotionally over people if they're exposed for a long time, like mold. But you have to understand how to, you don't let other people's emotions control your own. Not in this world, not in any other world, right? You have to stand for yourself and stand for the ones around you and use that love. You could try to have all the understanding in the world. Is love understanding? I don't know, man. I think that people understand things pretty quickly, and if you have to explain things further, that there's something going on there. You know what I mean? I think face value is face value for the most part, but people get fooled, don't they? People get fooled, and then what happens after someone's fooled? They're kind of it's very difficult to convince someone of something once it's in their head. It's sort of like a really cheap hard drive. And once something's in there, it's written, and there ain't no way to erase it. And then that's it. And religion cashes in on these people. So what a world! What a world! So what kind of psychic are you? What kind of thing you got going on? Astral projection, mental projection, you know, uh, automatic writing. These people who do that, and all kinds of stuff comes out. Uh, how about uh, how about dowsing rods? Peter uses dowsing rods, and I didn't even believe those things in the beginning. I kept trying to fool him, hide things in these buildings, and he'd go right to them. And I thought, okay, didn't take me too long to understand what those things were all about. And then dream telepathy, being able to communicate with the person through dreams, energy medicine, people saying they're into Reiki and all that, and they can heal you. People who can tell you what's going to happen, prophecy, what's going to happen in the future, psychic surgery. I've heard about that. People going in there. I wouldn't quite wouldn't quite do it if you needed surgery. I don't know about psychic surgery. I don't know. But there's also other things paranormal. You got to think about shape shifting. People get into that, if they're a witch and then they get into that realm. If you believe in it, not believe in it, I think that belief is a powerful thing. And I like to experience things, me myself, even Skinwalker and whatever. I know my friend's dad had an experience right there in New Mexico on Route 666 back then. Now they renamed it. But this guy was attacked while he was driving down the road 65 miles an hour in his big dually truck, attacked by this crazy thing. Was running 65 miles an hour trying to claw and get at him. And he said it looked like a wolf face and had horns and all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, I'd love to have. I want that experience. I want to stop and talk to that dude, girl, whatever. You know what I mean? See if she's single, what's going on. You know what I mean? You're a skinwalker, but you have nights off or days off. Anyway, I'm going to end the show there. Discovery Paranormal, United Public Radio Network, UPRNTalkRadio.com. I'll see you guys next week. Gracias, adios.